live. Let's make sure that's actually the case over on Rumble, of course. Hopefully today we don't have any technical difficulties like that other day. That was a difficult issue. I don't know exactly what went wrong. I've got no clue. And yeah, it's odd because I'm a content creator on the internet, but I'm slightly tech illiterate sometimes. Good at troubleshooting on my retrofitted laptop, not so good with phones and stuff like that, so it could be a little bit of a problem. I've had this problem for a long time. Those of you who know about soundboard calls will get the reference. Kristi Noem reveals striking new layer in Trump's border wall policy. Yeah, you'll be surprised at their new strategy. It actually sounds like a good idea, honestly, and a cheap one, actually. They should be retrofitting the border entirely, but we'll talk about this particular new tactic that could actually work in multiple ways, by the way. Hallmarks of authoritarianism. Trump banks on loyalists as he wages war on truth. Yes, the fact that Donald Trump has, decided to hire people that are fundamentally aligned with his ideology all of a sudden is a form of authoritarianism. Never was when any other president did it, only now. Why Trump deserves credit for his Ukraine push and why it may all fall apart. This is CNN politics. They just can't bring themselves to simply praise him for any form of effort that he makes. They always have to add a caveat because they know their readership hates Donald Trump. Is socialism as popular as the media think? Well, we'll give the answer. We can do it in a single word, by the way. It's not that difficult. Mark Penn, I'm watching Trump unite Europe while the media pretends it's falling apart. I actually have a contraposition on this one, because I don't think that Europe uniting is really a good thing for our particular hemisphere, but again, we'll get more into that. And then you have Hans-Hermann Hoppe actually resigning from the Mises Institute. Mises, I've heard it pronounced both ways, over their plan. This was actually in July. Their plan to create a new award and award it to Javier Malay for his economic successes. And personally, I think that it's justified. But they've got their own reasons for this, and we'll get into them. Seems like sour grapes from, this particular individual. Hopium Gardner, hey Stick, what's your opinion on this odd pivot from Nick Fuentes and the Groypers to push forward Newsom? I haven't seen anything of it. Not sure, actually, therefore. I can't give an opinion on something I haven't kept up on. The Rubicon, back in Africa, armed guards outside, lock gates in the house, and lock gates in the house. But I got tea 3 times today by my sister-in-law's servants. Ah, your sister-in-law has literal servants? Wow, I need to be visiting your place. That sounds like fun. The only kind of servant that I would want would be somebody who, cleans up, I suppose, and organizes things. But then I thought to myself, if I was rich, I'd be inclined to do that. But at the same time, then things may not be organized to my specifications. So maybe just get a butler. Somebody just to sit there and talk in a posh British accent and bring you tea once in a while. That would work. Bobby Bobinson, they're the same as the Libertarians. They'll vote for leftists because the Republican isn't 100% on every based issue. I have noticed this. There are a lot of people who are like gung-ho for Trump, but then Trump made one decision they fucking didn't like, and then all of a sudden they say, well, fuck him, I'm going to vote for, I guess in this case, Gavin Newsom, or something like that. Briefcase blues out on a midget butler. That would be funny. Especially if they dress up in a Sambo costume, like a lawn jockey sort of thing. Over easy mode, what are your thoughts on Nick Fuentes? I don't know much about him, but he's been showing up on my feed. I've debated him a couple times, and he called me the goth Sean Hannity, which I found hysterical. I like the dude. I don't agree with everything that he believes in, but I've got no quarrel with him. Yeah. CP simple. Clank. You can't please all the people all the time. Exactly. Every content creator of any means knows this full well. You are right. Cooking Inferno. Just don't diddle the maid. Never ends well. Yeah, just look at, what was it, Schwarzenegger and Tiger Woods, I think, both got, didn't they both diddle the maid, literally? I think. And the maids were always less attractive than the people that they were already with. Won't need as much hydration today, thankfully. It is a drizzly day. We got a good rain last night. It's nice and cool. That's why I can wear my excellent pirate jacket, which has been repaired, you will see. And still missing one button, but, you know, you can make do. Yeah, it was Schwarzenegger and Tiger Woods. I think those were the two big ones that basically diddled the maid. Bang Frisco, I had fun with maid. Well, if you get it from one of those erotic maid services where they dress in the special costume and don't wear panties, I'm assuming probably they're DTF, but I'm not into that. No, it's more like, hey, we've got cats. There's cat hair on my electronics. Please clean it. Bobby Bobson, short, so what? Schwarzenegger. It's not a tumor. Get to the chopper. Anyway. Kristi Noem reveals striking new layer in Trump's border wall strategy. Guess what this new measure is? It's very low tech, and it could be very effective. They're going to paint it black. The border wall is going to be painted black in hopes of accomplishing two things. Number one, by painting it, it'll keep it from rusting out and degrading over time. That makes sense. It's just reduction in maintenance costs. The cost of applying the paint will be far less than the cost of replacing the bollards if they should crumble away into a pile of sand. And number two, to heat up more in the sun. And the idea is that this will make it harder to scale the wall, because when the wall heats up, 30 or 40 extra degrees, it's going to singe you if you attempt to climb up it at all. Is this a perfect solution? No. Is it a really, really low-tech, really, really cheap advancement on border security as they build more wall? Yeah. So my hope is that they carry this through. It'd be funny. Some liberal court will say, you're not allowed to paint the wall. You're painting it black, therefore it's racist. Or something like that. At this point, that sort of thing that would have been hyperbole 10 years ago is no longer hyperbole at all. It's totally believable that some court would actually find it unconstitutional. Oh, you're violating their rights. They're burning their hands. Oh, they'll show you a picture of a kid that, tried to climb up the wall and burned their feet or something like that. And so therefore evil or something along those lines. Just ignore the fact that the border is still porous as Swiss cheese and that Trump is desperately trying to defend it. No, we've got to think about that kid. Think of the children, it always applies, who burned themselves on the wall. Or they'll ramble about how it's an expenditure of tax money, even though the money's already been allocated in discretionary spending and so forth. So you can expect a very large amount of propaganda with regards to this specific plan, even though it's a good one, generally speaking. I mean, if you can prevent millions of people coming into the country with a fairly low-cost solution, kind of makes sense to utilize that low-cost solution, now doesn't it? Lemon curd. It's a fine morning here in DeSantistan. It's probably a lot hotter down there than it is up here right now. We're getting almost autumnal weather at the moment. We've got a cool wave going through. We'll definitely get one last gasp of summer, though. This time of year, the weather becomes very, very bipolar in Vermont. So we'll probably get like a 100-degree day, and then the bottom will drop out and it'll be snowing a week later. It happens pretty much every year. I love Vermont. Just saying. Hallmarks of authoritarianism. Trump banks on loyalists as he wages war on truth. Yes, indeed, Donald Trump has chosen people ideologically aligned with him to be part of his cabinet and to be his heads of staff, like literally every other president has done immemorially. but orange man bad. Uniquely orange man bad. It was okay when Obama or Bush or any of these others did it, when Biden did it, when he surrounded himself with, well, people that basically ran the country in his case. Those were perfectly fine, even though some of the things that they said were patently false. And there were scandals and cover-ups and all of these other things. Wars, who cares about that? Major scandals like the AP spying scandal, Fast and Furious, have been memory hold. Those are all perfectly fine. Bill Clinton and what he did with his cigars. Oh yeah, I love me some of that there, fire crotch. Stuff like that. When Donald Trump breathes, this is an old joke at this point, but it's still funny. The liberals complained that oxygen is racist, something like that. This is not authoritarianism. The article itself, basically, and this is on, again, this is on The Guardian, so TDS is required whenever they talk about Trump. The idea is that he's spreading misinformation through various bureaus, through various head staffers and so forth, that he's wrong. I would ask, what is truth? Because it seems all too often that the truth that people hold today is discredited tomorrow, and then in the future it may be recredited. For example, let me give you probably the, well, least famous, but the most glaring example of this. Monkey glands. Within the health community, back in the Victorian era, there was a practice known as the use of monkey glands. They would splice monkey testicles into very, very thin sheets and implant them on people's kidneys. The idea was that it could cause a man to be more virile, have more energy, and so forth. Probably on the latter, it'd be more of a placebo effect. Later on, not that far later on, they completely discredited it and said, look, this doesn't do anything, it doesn't work, it has no actual function. Now, in more recent years, we've realized, hey, if they are thinly cut enough, the cells will actually integrate with the kidneys and basically melt into the human body, adding DNA to it. So we're not exactly sure what practical applications this is going to have, but the surgical procedure under modern auspices technically is number one, safe, and number two, does produce some sort of effect. It's just not exactly known. It doesn't increase virility, of course. That's been disproven, but it can actually have a positive health impact. They're actually studying it today. They're actually studying it now. So the research that originally was completely discredited, having been originally credited, is now discredited again, credited again, at least in part. We've seen this with dietary science. Eggs, for example, they were a menace 20 years ago. Oh my God, they're high in cholesterol, don't eat eggs. Now we know that we were putting the wagon in front of the horse. The cholesterol levels are the result of other things. The eggs themselves, their cholesterol is actually healthy. It's a good source of protein. You should eat more eggs. Steak. Meat was the devil. Now we realize, oh, yeah, it's mainly the additives in processed meat that are the problem and all the chemicals they add to them. A properly cut steak or a good pork chop or something is perfectly healthy. Organic, free-range chicken meat, it's probably not going to give you a heart attack. We now know this. You have a million examples of things that have been credited, discredited over and over again. Look at computer science. I remember back in the 2000s, they were talking about the limitations on processing power. Well, I think that we blew past those expectations now, didn't we? Oh, that's because we developed new technology that's 1,000 times faster. I was told it was impossible to have more than a gigabyte on your computer. We're reaching the end point. It was sort of peak oil. Basically the same idea. Oh, well, we're going to run out of oil pretty soon. Yeah, the cost is going to go up. And by the way, Venezuela believed that, and that led to their economic problems. Happens all the time. So, yeah. What about the rise of new stage nuclear reactors that we were told originally, decades ago, could not exist? Well, they exist now. And oh, Dave, fuck you, Rumble, for pausing the stream in the first second. Yeah, my apologies for that on behalf of Rumble. Good site, but, you know, there's still some wonkiness once in a while. Broken Prophet, Shock the Monkey. Excellent song, by the way, by Peter Gabriel. Watch the monkey get hurt, the monkey. I love that song. That's one of the first music videos I ever watched on YouTube, actually. In fact, it may have been back in the day when Google Videos was separate from YouTube. I can't actually remember. I was in high school at the time. Yeah, I think the first one, though, was Africa by Toto. Let's get to our sponsors really quickly before we proceed with the news topic, shall we? Cultivated-mind.com, where you can get some mushroom pills. I take them every day, sometimes 2 a day, and I've still got a couple of packets left. I'm running low on these ones. I gave a couple of friends some of the bottles of them, actually, because I figured, hey, you know, put some pep in your step. It works for me. Also, we got doggo snacks available there. Should definitely get a few bags of those, because if your dog's reaction is the same as the reaction of the dog that I met in New York City, you can bribe the neighbor's dog that always barks at you, and within a couple of days, they'll be your best friend. Apparently. So they must be fucking tasty. BiltongUSA.com. In fact, Anton is there. Whenever we mention Anton, or Biltong in general, we must have some Too Salty Bovrite. Yeah, baby. Down the whole thing. Had another friend, gave him some Bovrite. Within like 2 days, the whole thing was empty. And they were just like scooping out and eating it. Delicious. You can get Marmite, Bovrite, Vegemite. You can get Wagyu. You can get venison. You can get bison. You can get Cabanassi, one of my favorites. Trooiwors, which is my literal favorite at this point. I love that one. It's, I can't explain the flavor, but it's delicious. Just fucking trust me. You can get Sticks, Hex, and Hammer, mugs, tumblers, and shirts available as well. And finally, jamandbean.com. That is jamandbean.com. Still have to try that peppermint tea. They got teas. We got Clanker Blend coffee. They've got Costa Rica Blend and all sorts of others. I'm going to try the peppermint, I think, later. Because I haven't tried that one yet. All the other teas that I've tried, 10 out of 10. Fantastic. So yeah, those are our sponsors. Use code STICKS on these sites as well. One tall order, Sticks. If you do another stream with Sleazy, can we call it the Sleazy and Captain Crack Sparrow stream? Yes. Hey, that's actually a great idea. Wellhead Rex, Tisane. Yes, some of them are Tisane herbal teas, actually. I don't know, it's like, earlier in the day, I'll have the Yunnan Jig, because it's caffeinated. Later on in the day, I just want some comfy herbiness while I'm cuddled into bed and reading a book or shitposting on Twitter, usually the latter. Holden Sneedmeyer, you talk about Mamdani too much. Zoo York is a jungle of concrete and low IQ. AOC still has a job. Having been to New York City, I can tell you there are plenty of based people there. And they really love pirates, apparently. They love them even more than people in New Orleans do. I don't know why. It makes no sense to me, but it's still humorous. No, Brooklyn is great. Like, if I had to move to a big city area, like a mega city, I'd probably move to Brooklyn, honestly. Yeah, it was great. It's the perfect mashup of humanity. You've got, like, the old New York, like, especially Italian culture overlapped with, like, Asian markets and stuff like that. You can get anything that you goddamn want. You never need to leave the borough. You can get literally anything. I had a great time myself. Harrison Bergeron. New York City, especially Times Square, smells like piss. Well, Bourbon Street smells like vomit, so, you know, that would be my second best, going and living in the French Quarter, I suppose. That would be fun, especially if you're right above Bourbon Street itself, and so you can throw beads to tourists and stuff. That'd be funny. Holden Sneedmeyer, if they were based, they wouldn't live in New York. Just saying, I liked New York City, alright? I know that a lot of other people have a different opinion, but I have a feeling some of them have never actually been to a decent location. Like, it's like the small town feel in a big ass city. You get 10 million people living there, but it doesn't feel like it depending on your location. It depends. Why Trump deserves credit for his Ukraine push, and why it may all fall apart. CNN Politics. The article itself is of no interest to me whatever. Most people only read the title anyway and didn't even read into the article, or they read the tweet, summarizing it in 2 sentences or something like that. It is impossible for legacy media outlets that have developed the severest level of TDS. There are multiple levels. It is impossible for them to give Trump credit for something without attaching some sort of linguistic caveat. You may have noticed this. It may all fall apart. They're almost betting against a peace deal. They're betting on more Ukrainians and Russians dying. I mean, it makes for better news. If nobody's dying anywhere in the world, what the hell are you supposed to talk about? CNN would have to post cute cat video, number 5 or something like that. Here are the top 10 sweaters that you can buy for the upcoming autumn, or something like that. Human interest stories. Nobody reads them. Nobody gives a shit about them. Can you imagine being the person that has to work at a legacy media outlet, and the only articles you're making are like, about cats or sweaters or something like that? And then you get your promotion, you finally get bumped up to culinary, so now you can do food critiques. That would be a lot more exciting. Will you get chopped down in the comments section? Inevitably. Because it is impossible to make a food that everyone agrees upon. Because everyone's got their own recipe if they're interested in that topic. And then maybe eventually, 10 years later, you get bumped up to sociopolitics. And like, yes, finally. And then you get shit canned because CNN goes out of business or has to cut jobs or something like that, and you don't have seniority. It must suck working for the legacy media, actually. Come to think of it. True. Quick, write a top 10 list. Top 10 for what? Nope, I got a call coming. Let's see. Do I need to take it now? It depends on who it's from. Nope, and they hung up. Well, maybe somebody pocket dialed me. This happens sometimes. There was one time, somebody, I can't remember who it was, pocket dialed me, and all I could hear was like the squishy sound of like jeans and stuff like that. Like they had accidentally dialed me while it was in their pocket. That was pretty funny. Holden Sneedmeyer. I'm not betting against Trump with Ukraine. I just know that Russia will dictate the terms, and we're a co-belligerents posing as mediators. Yeah, to an extent, I would agree with you. I don't think that they'll fully dictate the terms. There will be some give and take. But generally, yeah, Russia has the upper hand, quite clearly. They're already there. They've got nukes. They've got much more manpower. Zelensky is going to have to back off some of his proposals. It is inevitable that this will happen. There is no other way forward other than continuous fighting. Neck Romancer. There is a subgenre of YouTube videos where people pour molten aluminum into yellowjack and ant nests. It's the most metal thing I've ever seen. Oh yeah, I've seen those. Those are pretty cool. If you pour it into a fire ant's nest, apparently it'll come out. You can turn that shit into a chandelier. It's just like a huge branched system of aluminum. It looks pretty cool. Yeah, you could dangle like, if you took like Herkimer diamonds and dangled them off of that, and then like laced it with a bit of silver, it would shine, like the moon, actually. I would love to do that, but we don't have fire ants here in Vermont. That's probably a good thing, though. Remember that one time I tried to put my swim trunks on, not knowing that the fire ants had decided to take up residence in the closet where they were laying. And basically, I'm glad that I didn't draw it all the way up to my dick. Otherwise, I'd be a eunuch right now, I guess. Yeah, so Trump and the Ukraine push, yeah, they're not going to give him credit for it. Now, it isn't perfect. the odds of a peace deal being signed anytime soon are very, very low. But at the very least, you could at least root for him to get a peace deal signed. You know, say, hey, you know, at least he's trying. I noticed that Biden never really tried, but they never really criticized him. And, well, he's got to be a realist on the Russia-Ukraine issue. Is socialism as popular as the media think? This is from the Washington Examiner. Of course, their answer is no. The Washington Examiner tends to be fairly right-leaning. But they are correct in this case. From what I have seen in my interactions, especially with younger people, is that socialism is not particularly popular. We even see this in New York City. Mamdani, to my knowledge, has not broken 50% in any poll. He's an outright commie, by the way. Is he in the lead? Yes. Do I find this unfortunate? Yes, absolutely. But yeah, I don't think that socialism is really going to catch on in the United States. The peak of socialism in the U.S., unbeknownst to most people, actually was at the dawn of the 20th century. In the dawn of the 20th century, you had bomb-throwing anarchists, you had communist perturbation, you had socialist groups with their signs and stuff, and then union busting and unions attacking each other. Businesses were attacking each other by using their thugs to, you know, basically grind down the economy. It was like a war, basically, back in the 1910s. Most people know nothing about this time period, by the way. It gets skipped over. Basically, you go from the Civil War period and maybe the Gilded Age, which segues into the 1900s. You pretty much skip past that all the way to the Roaring Twenties and then the Great Depression. And that particular period of time is ignored. It's sort of like everyone knows some facts about World War II and World War I and the Civil War and certainly the Revolutionary War. People know about Iraq because it's more recent. People know about Vietnam. But very few people know about the Korean War and all of the aspects of that, how there was the push and shove back and forth between the NORC forces and the US and NATO forces at that time, and how the stalemate was achieved, and then they formed the DMZ, you had the Zerg rushing from China. Most people, and the fact that the US military, this is hilarious. Oh, I could rattle on history for 10 hours. Apparently, at the dawn of the war, the Norkies were wielding Russian-made tanks. They were modernized. The US was using Sherman tanks. They were not modernized. They had developed an entirely new line of tanks because the tanks that they were using in World War II, while small and maneuverable and reliable, unfortunately did not fit the bill because their shells had more of an arc to them, whereas the enemy tanks could fire line of sight much more easily at intermediate lengths. And they had better armor and so forth, and better munitions. And so the Shermans didn't cut the bill. So you had to design other better tanks at the time. Yeah, N.O. Dave, Pershings already existed. Yes, indeed. But the U.S. was deploying Shermans to Korea, leading to unnecessary levels of death. The Korean War was probably the most screwed up war that nobody's ever really studied. Vietnam was messed up too, but Korea was arguably strategically more messed up. Most people barely remember that it even happened. Inland Surfer, I've noticed post-Soviet Russia has embraced Eastern Orthodox Christianity, and Ukraine is at some odds with it. Is this a spiritual fight as well? No, it's basically the same main religion. It's just that the Russian Orthodox Church is Russian. It's not necessarily fully overlapped with the Orthodoxy in other countries. It tends to be more nationalistic. Dab Shank the First. Oh, I got a text. American history in school is basically slavery, World War II, the Indians, whatever happened there, racism, civil rights, Barack Obama, racism. Yeah, and it's sad because kids aren't getting a full education. Just a sec. Live streaming. Oh, for the love of God. I don't know what the fuck is going on. I have no clue. Anyway, Dylan Peters, no offense, but you're completely wrong. The light Sherman with the 76 gun was more than a match for the T-34-85. Yeah, but then, again, at the same time, unfortunately, we began getting beaten back to the point where you needed a basically counter-Zerg rush in order to half and half the Korean peninsula. Trump, by the way, attempting to make some sort of reasonable peace in the area, had some limited success. I'm hoping that he does it again. Cooking Inferno. Korean War is about as known as the War of 1812. Exactly. Yeah, most people don't know much about that either. They don't know about that day when the British regulars burned Washington, D.C., and then a huge downburst happened. And it not only scattered them, but put out most of the fires, actually. It was probably some sort of inclement weather event. I saw one once when I was in Woodstock as a kid. It was a downburst, and it was fantastic. You're in the apartment. It's a sunny day. All of a sudden, everything goes as dark as goddamn midnight. And the wind starts whipping, rain is lashing, there's debris flying everywhere. It caused catastrophic damage. And it wasn't even in Woodstock, it was actually next door in Bridgewater. And I saw the trees. Next time we went to Lebanon, here to Rutland actually, we're visiting Grandpa Bob. The trees were flattened down in a pattern that looked like it had been nuked. It was very impressive. Man, that was pretty fun. I think the best tanks of World War II, up until the Russians developed their own tanks, probably were the British ones. The French were using older varieties. The Sherman tank was good, don't get me wrong. It's still usable now. It'd be kind of hard to take out somebody in a Sherman tank unless you got some artillery on you. But they weren't as good as the tanks that were being fielded against us. Get a King Tiger going. See what happens. Mark Pan, I'm watching Trump unite Europe while the media pretends it's falling apart. This is an interesting article, by the way, when I read through it. Effectively, it's making the case, hey, Donald Trump is actually bringing European leaders together to negotiate, to do trade deals and stuff like that. He's not dividing Europe, he's actually unifying it. But here's my counterpoint. While I can appreciate that, and I hope that Europe gets along, I hope that peace breaks out, Europe was fun, I loved being in the Netherlands, all these things are very, very great. But if Europe unifies, my concern is that a handful of very, very powerful people in Europe will be running the whole show, and then it will fall apart. So you would have, for instance, Mark Rutte and the Dutch, which control most of the banking sector. Germany and France with the military sector. We're talking about EU, so the UK is not part of this, directly at least. My fear is that they'll continue the same kind of policies that, for instance, alienated the UK by making the currency all wonky, by making people in the southern area of Europe more impoverished due to trade differentials using the euro, common currency, alienating parts of Eastern Europe as a result of immigration policy. My worry is that Europe as a continent can't really form a cohesive whole. And indeed, when you look at polling, the vast majority of people in Europe do not consider themselves European. They consider themselves part of whatever country they're in, Polish, French, or whatever it happens to be. So their globalist plans, if they work at all, it'll be very, very slow. So I'm not sure that I want European unity. It would be better to have like a loose confederation. People can have their own currencies. They're simply exchanged one for one, and with no fee or anything like that. You'd have freedom of movement, but only for people that are lawful residents or citizens of these countries, and things like that. That's basically the plan that should be enacted. Now, this is just my opinion as an American. We've seen the problems of mass migration and manipulation of currency, certainly with China, etc., over our time. So that would be what I would want. It's like the border between the Netherlands and Belgium at certain spots is literally a line of bricks. Oh, you're in Belgium. Now you're back in the Netherlands. You can be in two countries at the same time if you straddle that line of bricks. It's charming, it's nice, it's peaceful and wonderful, but is it going to work long term? I don't know. So the European Union may or may not succeed, but it's going to have to devolve some more powers back to member states based on their socioeconomic system, basically. Based on their feeling about immigration, based on their feeling about the currency and so forth. Nigel Farage understood this, and Farage, he did it best. I mean, everyone said that Brexit wouldn't work, but it did in the end. I believe that there was indeed a Brexit. Anaho Dave. Matilda, pretty good too. Memetic. I was discussing the movie earlier in the context of Pee Wee Herman. Also, what was that? What was the fuck was it? Dunstan's something. It was the movie with the orangutan, and it had Pee Wee Herman in it. The fuck was the name of the movie? Dunstan's Big Adventure or something like that. It was with an orangutan, and a kid was trying to keep him safe from some evil magician or something. Dunstan checks in. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Andrew Graham. Jeff Garman, was Patton killed on purpose? Yes, I believe he was assassinated, and here's why. After World War II, they were trying to conduct an autopsy of exactly how the Nazis held out so long, and we went into the Middle East under Eisenhower for this reason and so forth. Patton was more concerned with attacking the Soviets when they were still at their weakest. They had lost millions and millions of fighting men. Their energy resources had partially run out. They had been reliant on U.S. Lend-Lease, and they hadn't yet rebuilt a full industrial economy. It therefore would have been possible for a relatively fresh U.S. force, supplemented by European allies, to force the Soviets out of what is now the boundaries of Europe. There never had to be a Cold War. We could have done that very easily. It wouldn't have even been hard. It would have been easier than fighting the fucking Nazis. But Patton did not align with the goals of the U.S. They said, if we do create a Cold War and shit like this, then we can make more money. That's basically what they did. They threw the entire nation under the bus. Michael D'Angelo, what do you think about Harriet Tubman replacing Jackson on the 20? With Biden inflation, I want to see Trump on the 500 and Polk on the $1,000 bill. I've got two views on this. Number one, Harriet Tubman is not a former president of the United States, and historically our currency generally revolves around that with regards to paper money. But, as a counterpoint, Andrew Jackson would not want to be on the current $20 bill. If it was like a gold-backed bill and there were no central banking or anything like that, he would have no problem with it. He wouldn't have wanted to be on a Federal Reserve note. He didn't like the concept of central banking. He's probably rolling over in his grave, just looking down at the fact that he's on half the bills that are used as common currency. He would have hated the idea. Andrew Jackson was completely against the concept. Skippy, Patton said we fought the wrong enemy. And he was partially right. Sounds like there's a vehicle outside. But I'm not sure. I think they're refilling the oil. Inland Surfer, sometimes I think these current military conflicts are a beta test for burgeoning European Islamic conflict. It's possible. Punches Couches. Ben Franklin is on the $100 bill and he was never a president. An exception is generally made for founding fathers. And for coins, of course, it's a little bit different. We've had the Susan B. Anthony dollar, which didn't do well because it was almost exactly the same size as a quarter, so it became a problem. I used to have a bunch of those. I like Susan B. Anthony's. I've got a few actually in my coin collection over here. Then you had the Sacagawea, or Sacagawea, whichever way you want to pronounce it, dollar. that never really took off either. The United States, the only country incapable of minting a $1 coin and making it work. When the Canadians can do something and you can't, you may be a failure at life. King of Biltong. Biltong is one of the highest protein snacks in the world, boasting nearly 50% protein and packed with B12, creatine, iron, zinc, and more. Visit www.biltongusa.com and use code STICKS for 10% off. Yeah. I liked the... Well, they had the Eisenhower dollar coin. I think I've got a couple of those. I think. That one was oversized. And so it was, it's not the sort of thing you can't carry, 20 or 30 of them around without it weighing down your satchel, so to speak. What I wish is that they would bring back the Mercury dime. I mean, I know that it wouldn't be 95% silver, but that's my favorite coin of all time, the Mercury dime. Apparently, they accidentally added the wings to the head, making it into Mercury. Originally, it was just supposed to be a young maiden. I don't know exactly, I can't remember how exactly the mistake happened. Oh, it was the dump truck at the neighbor's place that I was hearing. Okay. I was hoping they were delivering oil or maybe mail or something like that. By the way, Hans Hermann Hoppe, or Hop, or however, we'll call him Hop because, Pepe and stuff, has decided to resign from the Mises Institute. That's because they are going to give an award to Javier Malay. Can I ask something? Mises Institute. So it's like libertarian, generally speaking, Austrian economics and things of that nature. So the cool kids crowd, people who actually understand how to run an economy and so forth. Is Javier Malay not helping the economy of his country? Why should he not get some sort of award for doing so? This is my problem with libertarians. And I no longer consider myself one. I consider myself merely a classical liberal, which to them means that I'm basically Adolf Hitler, I suppose. I have no problem with libertarians or libertarianism. I have the Gadsden flag for a reason. But I'm also a pragmatist. If someone does begin to carry out basically the baseline of what you've been preaching for decades in their country, and it's successful, and more people have more jobs and better jobs, and the currency is no longer hyperinflating, and everything is generally going well, wouldn't you want to take a picture of Javier Malay, put it in a frame, and say, this is basically what we aspire to? Is he a libertarian? No, not in the stringent sense that an anarcho-capitalist or a monarchist would herald it. Is he a libertarian in the pragmatist sense? Yeah, of course he is. Yeah, he's fixing his nation. Over decades and decades of Peronism, you had a steady degradation of Argentina from a country that was actually a top-level economy, doing really well, pumping out all sorts of resources, and generally people were doing fine. Degraded over time by socialism into a country that fell down in the rankings on basically all measure for years and years and years. Javier Malay has done more for Argentina in a very short span of time than any Peronist did over a very long span of time. I would think that that merits some sort of award. All you're doing is giving him a medal or a little statue or something anyway. So far, he's done a very good job. I would love to see Argentina. I would not have wanted to visit Argentina under its former socialist auspices, but I would love to visit while Javier Malay is in charge. That would be much nicer. Hey, we're taking care of crime and safeguarding our culture and trying to rip apart the bureaucracy. Hell, I wish that Donald Trump would rip apart some of the bureaus and do a fuero. Or a fuera, actually, I believe it is. Funk-a-Puppet, put Jack Nicholson and Joker on the $1 bill. Yeah, if we're going to fall into a leftist dystopia, My hope is that at the very least we can make a joke out of it. H.P. Lovecraft would have to be on the $5 bill, I guess. Skippy, Bill Weld of the LP promoted Hillary in 2016. Yep. Yeah, the Libertarian Party has broken apart into factions, where once there was at least an attempt to unify. So you'd have, like, you have the ANCAPs, the monarchists, the classical liberals, and then you have the constitutionalists. Trying to get them under one broad umbrella, though, is probably impossible, because each group considers the other groups extremists. Oh well. That's why I think we should just overhaul and take over the Republican Party or something like that, and then go from there. John Hoyle, that was Gary Johnson, I believe. Yeah, he broke down into making like noises. He was like, what the fuck is your problem? Aquafan, I personally do not like the idea of making statues or currency of images of living individuals. It gives too monarchist to me. But after his passing, I'd be down for a Trump $10 coin. I've actually still got a challenge coin. It's one of those coins that you palm off to someone when you're shaking their hand. That's a fun game. Yeah, I got 2 of them. I already managed to palm one off. Although I have to find the other one in order to do that. Maybe I'll do it to the dude at the gas station that's obsessed with pirates. When I walked in with the pirate hat, he just constantly rambles about pirates. Older dude, maybe in his 50s or something. Always talking about pirate movies and keel hauling and stuff like that. It's fun. Vienna. The choice the libertarians make is between cuckoldry and fascism. There is a third way, actually. It's called classical liberalism. It's what our country was founded upon. It just behooves us to make sure that people know about its existence, because right now they think in dichotomous political terms. Olorang the Viking. Who cares about Aleppo? No one. Yeah, Gary Johnson, and the funny thing is, I think he got the most votes of any libertarian candidate simply because people didn't want Hillary or Trump at the time. But, yeah, he could have capitalized upon the moment and become viable. It would have been possible if he had just known more about the issues and not done stupid shit. But he didn't know about the issues and did stupid shit, so it all fell apart. Beyond believing. Best joke I've heard about pirates. Why are pirates called pirates? Because they are. So many misconceptions about pirates. Some people have this sort of romantic view of pirates as being very gentlemanly to their captives and stuff. No, they usually slaughtered them. Unless it was women and children, they could be given quarter. Or, the captain or something like that. Otherwise, they generally got sunk into the briny deep. But then the flip side is also not true. This is now a bant stream, by the way, for the next 15 to 20 minutes. The other side is also not true, which is that pirates are just ugly savages with no teeth. They would have had just as many teeth as any normal person at the time. Most people were missing a few by the time that they were adults at that particular stage in human development. They would have been no more unwashed than the average person, and they were actually usually literate. And it's just that aboard ship you might have 5 or 6 different languages being spoken. This is why John Lafitte actually did so well. Between he and his brother, they spoke 5 languages, so they went out to Pirate Island and they could draft a bunch of people. Then they started coordinating things, because before it had been a raucous, riotous mess. They started coordinating the goods that they were bringing to the island, bringing it back to the mainland, and they literally went through the fucking bayous, actually, to do this, and only they knew the path. And so they would bring the goods back, and they literally set up friggin' factories, like huge warehouses where they would undercut the costs of other local businesses and sell the goods to people who didn't have the means to pay the prices. So they made a shit ton of money, most of which they presumptively spent on whores and booze. And then eventually they fought alongside Andrew Jackson. Another facet of the War of 1812 was that the left flank, I believe it was, no, it would have been the right flank actually, was held by pirates. Several thousand pirates decided to join up with him. Isn't that funny? The United States was defended in part by pirates at its darkest hour. But yeah, they took fucking money and they would go into town and it didn't last long. It was basically living paycheck to paycheck. Now, the paycheck might be very big, but when you're living that kind of lifestyle, after a couple of days on the shore, you no longer have any money and you have to go out and get another ship and take the goods. Let's see. Aquafan. Challenge coins are cool. I just don't like official government statues and official government currency containing images of living individuals. Maybe I'm the weird one, but it feels like government worship. True. Although I believe that they are not allowed to put living presidents on coins and bills. So there's almost no chance they're ever going to put Donald Trump on the currency. They should, but they probably won't. If they did, they would make it the most inconvenient coin, one that deliberately fails. Like, a dollar coin that's square or something like that. I love the Banson chat. It makes my life living. Dave. Pirates are merely unelected politicians. Well, not really. Actually, they did vote quite constantly on pirate ships, except in time of battle. The captain was effectively nothing more than a figurehead. He would have been, other than not having to do brute labor and having a better cabin, he didn't get any further royalties as far as the captain went. He'd get a bigger share of the plunder, but other than that, nothing. And otherwise, the crew voted, generally speaking, on what to do. The navigator would navigate the ship. And then you have the bosun, the second mate, and all of these other people. The ship's cook. Be funny if a pirate captain said, fuck it, I don't want a ship's cook, I want to cook myself. Starts a cooking channel, only there's no webcams available, so, that's probably off the table. In time of battle, the captain was a dictator. At all other times, it was effectively a direct democracy. Most people don't know this. The idea that pirates were constantly drunk is wrong. They did drink a lot of grog, but this is a very small amount of rum put in water. That was simply to sterilize the water. This is being done on the land as well at the same time, all around the world. In the Mediterranean, you use wine. In Scandinavia, Northern Europe, you had small beer. Elsewhere, you typically used rum or something like that. Or some other fermented agent. And this was simply to make the water supply safe to actually drink, so you didn't get an outbreak of parasitical disease on your ship. They would have landed on random islands and probably had a better diet than the average mainlander. The average person at the time, living, for example, like let's say New England or Virginia or something like that, what was their diet? Meat and potatoes, or meat and wheat, or something like that. They had relatively little access to the kinds of foods that pirates would have had access to. They're going to all of these islands and, taking fucking pineapples and coconuts and stuff like that, eating exotic animals. I'm sure that more than one of them took home a pet, by the way. That would have been funny. Somebody should write a novella about a pirate that adopts a pet turtle and his attempt to keep it safe under siege by cannonballs and hurricanes and things like that. That'd be a good young adults novel, actually. Maybe I'll write that myself. So don't nick the idea. Anyway, yeah, pirates were most of them were capable of speaking. Some of them were capable of writing. Not most of them, but then again, most of the population wasn't capable of writing. So what's the fucking difference? The only reason we think of them as scruffy and having big beards and shit like that is because do you think that the bathing amenities aboard a privateering vessel are as good as what you would get at the inn? Probably not. Mulgera, good morning. Clank, Ron Paul is now officially 90 years old. Cool. Yeah, Ron Paul is a hero indeed. He got so many people interested in discussing the concept of liberty. Millions and millions of them. Ron Paul is one of the most transformative figures in U.S. history, actually, which is why they will try to unremember him, the same as they will with Trump and many others. If somebody transforms things for good and stands against the globalistic powers that be, typically an attempt is made to tarnish their reputation, like you saw with Ron Paul, saying he handed out racist literature. Meanwhile, of course, he never authorized that literature and had no idea it was being hanged out. Whoops. I voted for Ron Paul. Who else the fuck was I gonna vote for? Let's see. Team number 1, we have Barack Hussein Obama. Yay! He wants to take us to war and supposedly close Gitmo, even though he had 4 years to do that and never did. Team number 2, we have Twit Romney. Yeah! He's a religious zealot, supposedly, although he may be lying about that. He also wants to take us to war, and he thinks we ought to double Gitmo. Who the hell am I going to vote for? Should I eat turds, or should I eat rotted mealyworm slime? That's basically the choice he had in 2012. I was glad in 2016 when there was a more clear-cut choice. I was glad the same in the last couple of elections, even if one of them was fudged. Oh yeah, I reported this morning, by the way, there was an article by Rachel Madcow. I'm sure that you all know who that is. Worrying that Donald Trump was rigging the midterms. I pointed out, I thought you told me for years now that the election couldn't be rigged. It was impossible to do so. Well, what gives? All of a sudden, things are different. Why? Are you worried that the Republicans might actually win the midterms and stave off the Democrats from taking the House? I have a feeling that that's the reason why. Fireburn, vote for the one and only Jerry Nadler. It's Richard Sticks. Yeah. I like Rand Paul too. Sometimes he stands in the way of Trump's agenda. But then again, there are times when I don't even agree with Trump's agenda. So, it's all good. I'm not going to turn my back on Rand Paul. I still think that he would make a good president. But I would think that he would make a better leader of the Senate. That's what I think that he should aspire to, and the Republicans in the Senate should put him in that position. Now that Mitch the bitch Turtle McConnell, when I had turtle soup, I was chuckling because I was actually reminded of Mitch McConnell when I was eating it. And it was tasty, unlike Mitch McConnell. But when he's finally, gone from that position, Rand Paul should become the Senate Majority Leader. Turtle. Am I not turtly enough for the Turtle Club? Dude looks a little bit like Mitch McConnell. It's almost kind of creepy, actually, in that movie. Yeah, I would say Rand Paul there are kind of two types of politicians. The more strategic, cut and dry, line-by-line ones, and then they're the charismatics. Rand Paul is more of the former. So is Mitch McConnell, by the way. It's just that Mitch McConnell uses his power for evil, and Rand Paul attempts to use his power for good. You don't have to always agree with him, and I agree with several people that are, weighing in. Rand Paul is not particularly charismatic most of the time, but he is well-spoken enough to be Senate Majority Leader. And oh, Dave, Lindsey Graham wants to share his ladybugs. Yeah, he wants to swap spit with mainly people with a Y chromosome. I'm sure that John McCain probably topped him. at some point. Can you imagine the fucking parties that these people get up to sometimes in their congressional chambers and shit like that? Like, hey, you know, come on in. We've got like 10 gallons of vodka over there, so, you know, help yourself. I can imagine that some of these people literally are like that. Oh, that white powder over there? I had Dunkin' Donuts earlier. Don't ask too many questions. Yeah, Lindsey Graham is absolutely gay, by the way. There is a 100% chance that he's gay. Never been married, never been seen in public with a female, hangs out all the time with John McCain, does his makeup every single day and stuff like that. He's gay. He just doesn't want to tell his constituents that. It's not that I care. I care more about the warmongering and the corruption. But it is funny because he pretends to be like an evangelical. Because of the region that he's from, he has to stay in the closet. Why don't you just join the log cabin Republicans? You know, they'll take care of you. And then you can, you know, have gay sex in the bathroom and nobody will judge you. Harrison Bergeron. Oh, shit. I am sure he spends time in Thailand without telling anyone. Yeah, probably. Taco Woman Sandy Ravage. Lindsey Graham is the gay version of Blanche from Golden Girls. Thankfully never had to see Golden Girls. Mulgera. Lindsey Graham is like Brian Stelter. Oh, God. So very obviously gay, it's not even funny. Yeah, I know. It's quite simple to explain. His mannerisms, the makeup, the lack of ever apparently having a meaningful relationship with a female, his bromance with John McCain, and with others, by the way, they all lead to one particular conclusion that anyone can conclude. Can you imagine what Lindsey Graham would be like when he was having gay sex with John McCain? Like 20 years ago when they could still get erections? That would be so funny. Disgusting, but funny. To be a fly on the wall and be able to record it and put it on the internet would be a great thing. Privateer these. No, stop sticks. Ah. Yeah. Imagine him lemon partying with John McCain and a couple of male staffers. They're all sucking each other's dicks and eating each other's shit. Fat and hideous, sweaty, lying on the bed. I will purposely disgust my own audience. By the way, that reminds me of something, which will be monumental, amazing even. I'm making the final volume of Morbid Stories. I've got a problem, though. Every single day, because I tend to fantasize about weird shit every day anyway, every single day I get new ideas for books. And so the list, I have to artificially non-expand it because otherwise the book is going to become like fucking 700 pages and take years to write, actually. So I had to limit myself. I have to calm down. But yeah, I've only got, I think, 50 more pages to proofread. Everything else has been done. I've written the new works. They're all done. There's about 20 new works in the new volume. I've created a different format. It's up to the modern standard. I might have to reformat it one more time because I might have to change the trim because the book is longer. I'm not 100% sure. So if that happens, it might delay it by a couple of days or something like that. But I'm about 85% through the work, and I'm going to be doing more later. Bobby Bobinson, Sticks, if you got paid $1 billion, would you lick up Mitch McConnell's diarrhea? For $1 billion, yes, I would begrudgingly do so. I'd puke it up everywhere, but yeah, if I had $1 billion, because then I'd never have to do anything again. Necromancer. If counties redistrict once every generation, would that soften the impact of gerrymandering? 10 to 20 years, depending on size. Maybe? I'm not sure, actually. John Hoyle. I have 3 barn cats. Cats are apex predators. Amazing. They even kill venomous snakes. By the way, I have positive news with regards to the wasp nest that was outside. I did put an army of ants on top, though it was not the red ants that I wanted to draft. I haven't seen much activity, so I think they might have wiped out the nest, but I'm not 100% sure. BW, Sticks, what wouldn't you do for $1 billion? I won't do that. Meatloaf, pretty good music. Also pretty good food. Mulgera, Graham seems like the type to look at Dan Crenshaw and thinks one-eyed monster, the other one. Yeah, Lindsey Graham's a weirdo. Well, so was John McCain. Crashes his plane on deck at one point. Makes propaganda for the Viet Cong. Just totally screwed up, you know? He's a traitor, a sellout. People still think of him as some sort of fucking war hero. Mike P. I actually have done music before. If you would like to look it up, it's on my channel under Sticks, Hex, and Hammer Gifts Ungiven. I did basically work with another musical artist, and I did all sorts of material. Some of them I wrote myself, and then there were a couple of covers, like I did Antichrist Superstar by Marilyn Manson. Had great fun doing that, but she decided to effectively go solo. Very talented individual. N.O. Dave. Ants Canada, YouTube channel for all your ant watching needs. Yeah, if the wasps are still there, when it dries out, they may be more active. It could just be that it was raining. I know where the red ant nest is now, so if I can, I'm going to try to get footage of the red ants absolutely decimating the goddamn yellow jackets. And they will. They will win that battle. It is inevitable. Mulgera, I like people who aren't captured. Donald Trump, brutal but hilarious. Lol. Yeah, it's more like, you know, you were the songbird of Hanoi after crashing your plane onto the deck of a fucking ship, and, you know, John McCain was just a waste of time. It's good that he never became president of the United States. Considering how inept he is, he would have been the Republican version of Joe Biden, I think. Bobby Bobinson, Sticks, would you let fire ants and wasps bite and sting your scrotum for $1 billion? Yeah, actually I would. For $1 billion, yeah. Look, if we were talking about $1 million, I would say no. $1 billion? So I can construct my own castle. I can have a wizard's tower or something like that. And, you know, eat whatever I want, whenever I want, and never work again. I mean, I would still work anyway because I love my job, but, yeah. That'd be pretty cool. Yeah, I'd let wasps sting my scrotum for $1 billion. So would you, by the way. Bobby Bobinson, you don't have $1 billion. My Vermont charge is just a charge. I know there's less info available about that because Vermont actually has privacy laws. Sucks to be you. Inland Surfer, James Buchanan, only bachelor U.S. president, was rumored to be a little squishy. Yeah, and also one of the worst presidents, by the way, apparently. Mulgera, McCain was also instrumental in the 2014 coup in Ukraine. Fuck that warmongering bastard. Yeah, McCain never met a war he didn't like. It doesn't even matter if the U.S. is involved. He'll watch footage of it and beat off anyway. Oh, the Cambodians and Laotians have decided to have a border skirmish, and I've got some cell phone video. Hell yeah! I'm not going to sleep alone tonight, if you know what I mean. Head of broccoli. Burn the ant colony with a huge magnifying glass. Problem solved. Well, I don't want to go after the ant colony. No, this is a yellow jacket colony that's right out back, perilously close to the breezeway. And so they're becoming, a little bit of a problem, a little bit of an annoyance. And so what I wanted to do was use my old ant trick. What you do is you go to a nest of ants, right? It has to be the right kind. They have to be those big fighting ants. Carpenter ants would probably work, I guess, but the ones with the red abdomens and the black thorax, those are the best ones to use. Sometimes it's inverted for some reason. It must be genetic or something. Anyway, you take a Tupperware container, you find their nest, and they will very quickly attempt to burrow back into the dirt. You have to scoop them up very quickly and cap it, otherwise you're going to get bitten. Now you've got an army! And then you just put back the rock or rotten wood or whatever it was on top of their nest back, and they can go about their business. Doesn't matter, because the queen will just be making more soldiers and shit anyway, more workers and soldiers, so it's all good. Their nest will recover, especially this time of year when they got ample food. Usually I leave them some food around the nest so that they can recover their numbers more quickly and be well fed and shit. I give them a little bit of tribute. I give them their pay for donating soldiers and voluntarily to my cause. Then you just dump that shit right next to a wasp's nest, yellow jackets, other ants, whatever. They'll cut them to pieces. Those yellow jackets will come tumbling out of that hole when I dump the ants in. And there'll be like 3 or 4 ants per wasp. It'll be hilarious. They'll kill the whole colony. They'll just shred them. Turtles Toy Box. I believe that Myrmidon, the A should be a Y, if I remember correctly. Solicitation of a prostate? Oh my god. I don't know. Sometimes I see people talk about me online and they'll say like the most off-the-wall shit possible. It happens almost every day at this point. It's funny because supposedly I'm losing relevance, but at the same time more and more people are talking about me. Very strange. Bobby Bobinson, Sticks, did you cop a prostate in Vermont? Yeah, I'm gonna solicit a prostate. Oh my god. The Lindsey Graham. Mark, that's trending with Hakeem Jeffries. Wait, something about prostates is trending with Hakeem Jeffries? Alright, this might be, bizarre news. Let me try to find it. I wouldn't be surprised. Hakeem Jeffries' prostate. Can't believe I'm actually looking that up. HuffPost. A war veteran has a penis and scrotum again thanks to this unbelievable procedure and a team of surgeons at Johns Hopkins. But that's a 6-year-old post, so that has nothing to do with it. Hakeem Jeffries probably has his prostate in his mouth. Yeah, I think I'm being trolled. Well, Gara, it's a shame Ron Paul wasn't able to make it to his conference on the 16th. But hey, I met some awesome people. Terry Baudet was badass. Yeah, I saw that picture. Pretty cool. Zachary Hughes, you can get stinging nettle tea at Loose Luna, actually, here in Rutland. They have goddamn fucking 200 types of tea. I have my own tea that I get from, of course, one of my sponsors. But if it's in the restaurant, yeah, I'll get the nettle tea. And it was really, really good. Mulgara, your search history has got to be hilarious. Honestly, there's not a whole lot there. Um, it's basically searching up music videos and news stories. You'd be surprised how boring and mundane I can be. Yeah, sometimes I act out and do crazy shit, but not online as much these days. I should go find a chat site to troll into oblivion. Should do that again. That's a good idea. Mulgara, Loose Luna is the name of Graham's prostate. Well, Luna is Loona at this particular restaurant. It's like a tea cafe with a gift shop, but they've got really, really fucking good food. It's probably the best that you're going to get in Rutland. It doesn't matter what you order. It's all delicious. If you can get, the soup is good, the sandwiches are good, the crostinis are good, the salads are good, the tea is good, it's got a great atmosphere. It's definitely my kind of place. So if you're ever in Rutland, Vermont, go to Loose Luna. It's also, look up at the ceiling at the top of the stairs and tell me what you see. There's the reason that it's an unofficial cathedral of Clankdom. It's owls. No, Bobby, I don't have another domestic violence charge. Anaho Dave, in PPF, the rumor is Styx was either Anglo or Zol. I don't know what that refers to. I'm generally Anglo-Saxon, but I'm also part Germanic and part Slavic. Supposedly part Abenaki, but we're not 100% sure. And I'm certainly not giving my DNA to one of these testing sites because the last time that one of them collapsed, they sold everything to China. How wonderful! The Chinese have all of your DNA. Now they can develop bioweapons more easily. How great! Oh, Anglo Destroyer, the batshit insane shitposter. No, then if you're talking about shitposters, I'm neither of them. Fireburn, you're Slavic? I am part Slovakian, actually, on my mother's side. I'm like 1/16 Slovakian, maybe, or something like that. I'm mostly English and Scottish. My mother is 50% English, so is my father. My dad's 50% Scottish. The rest of mom's composition, German, Slovak, and possibly, but we're not sure again, Abenaki. The freak of nature. Drunk phone toss champion. Yeah, so, I mean, I am a mutt, but I'm a cool one. Dab Shank the First sticks the pimp hand Hexenhammer. Over easy mode. The UK looks like a lost cause. Anything we can do? Bloody revolution comes to mind, but that's not going to happen. Reform will be very, very difficult. Now that you've had Brexit, though, at the very least, you stand a chance. Bobby, Sticks, what's wrong with telling us about the Karina date? I haven't been on a date with her, so, there's nothing to tell. CP Semple, I'm rumored to be at least more Mexican than Elizabeth Warren is Native American. Well, yeah, I mean, that's probably 99% of the people watching the video. That was the ultimate shit show. I loved it when she was crazy enough to release the results of her blood test, thinking that being 0.0 whatever it was, 7% or something, possibly Peruvian. And this is evidence of the fact that she's a Native American. Oh my god, it's like, you're like 10 times whiter than I am. You're 100 times whiter than the average American. Why did you release the results? It makes no sense. It doesn't evince your point, that's for sure. Liawatha, as they call her. Yeah. I call her Pocahontas for a reason. Pocahontas was actually like native. In Elizabeth Warren's case, it's more like she descends from the people that were killing those brown individuals. Inland Surfer, any Warwick's run with Ethan Allen? I am not sure. My uncle has traced the family heritage and its arrival to the United States to, I believe, the early 1600s, if I remember correctly. It was like 1614 or something like that. And yeah, no, I'm not sure if any of them fought alongside Ethan Allen. My assumption is probably at least part of that diaspora did. Actually, considering they were settled in New England, well, some of them settled in the South. They were more less loyalistic to the British Crown. The New Englanders were the ones that were more likely to actually go along with it at first because of trade, especially fishing industry, lumber, and things like that. And the British Empire needed more of it. So any of my ancestors that did go down to what began to be the Georgia region were more likely to have served. They would have been in the southern region, probably, serving as militia. Aquafan, I think Trump messed up calling her Pocahontas. It should have been Pocahontas. Well, yeah. Treebeard, I'm French and Indian. I'm always fighting with myself. I like that one. Dabshank the First. Sticks the pimp hand hexenhammer. Are you related to Warwick the Kingmaker? Yes, I actually am. I'm a distant and long-bereaved relative of Warwick Kingmaker. Indeed. You gotta realize, though, that a lot of people are descended from, major figures within England. It's an island, right? Well, back then, there was a lot of inbreeding going on, and so forth. Cousin lovin', so to speak. When the British try to act all posh and, I'm very astute, and the British Empire was the greatest empire in the history of the world. Just remember that most of these people are the result of, at least a few generations ago, inbreeding. That's why I have the English teeth. Yeah, it's really wonderful. But yes, I am actually a descendant of Warwick Kingmaker. King of Biltong. That's why the teeth. Haha. Exactly. When you get old enough, you can joke about your own physical deformities. Just like I joke about my dick. I mean, I'd show it to you, but it's impossible because I don't have an 8K resolution, so, you're not going to see anything. Bobby Bobbinson, you should cast a chaos magic spell to get with Taylor Swift. Oh, I don't want to. Her relationships typically end disastrously, and then she writes a song about them. So, yeah. I guess we would end up dating for a while, break up, and then there'd be a song on her new album called Sticks or something like that. That would be hilarious, but I'm not willing to invest the effort. Oh, you didn't say, oh, you mean just fucking her. I don't do that. I don't do one night stands, actually. No, it wouldn't be worth it. There have been a lot of trains that have gone into that station, so to speak. I don't think it would actually be worth it. Randall Flagg. Sticks, how can one support free trade as a cornerstone of libertarianism, yet also support the heaviest tariffs in 90 years? Well, because they're reciprocal tariffs, the whole idea is to equalize the trade. Hopefully, the real hope is that the mere threat of tariffs, or the temporary imposition of them, will cause the other country to massively reduce theirs, and then you can remove your own. So you have more free trade than you had before. but it takes time. We're going to have to give Trump time. I fully support him on his tariff negotiations. If we want to have free trade, we have to back other countries down and say, look, you can't tariff our corn at 200% and not expect us to tariff your corn at the same rate, because that doesn't make any sense. You're robbing us blind. We're losing money on the fucking corn, so. Bobby Poppinson, it's like throwing a hot dog down a hallway. Yeah. Yeah, it's like, there's nothing wrong with a woman who's, sexually active or something, but she kind of wears her relationships on her wrist now, doesn't she? It's formulaic. Taylor Swift gets with a dude. Taylor Swift breaks up with the dude. Taylor Swift releases a new album with very pointed music. Rinse and repeat, over and over and over again. I don't even know that she's actually realizing what she's doing, but she is very, very good at branding. I've never seen anyone better than this. She is exceptionally good at making her brand. And she knows who her audience is, so she weighs in on political things once in a while from a generally liberal perspective. And by all accounts, actually is a very nice person. Like, before she got famous, she was talking to people on MySpace, when she was just doing her, early demos and shit like that. I don't think she's a bad person, but I don't think that she's my type. Let's put it that way. I don't think that I could deal with somebody who's that volatile. Just saying. Neither could, by the way, most of you. Maybe she needs to get with a girl. Maybe that's for the best. She should have a lesbian relationship. That would really start the presses moving. A lesbian relationship with her cousin or something like that. People would be like, what the fuck is going on? Pirate love. Bobby Bobbinson, Sticks, would you beat it till Taylor's lesbian cousin sex? No, I don't think so. John Hoyle, I am so jealous. Good year for corn out here. Corn here didn't do particularly well. It had some problems. BW, are you saying that Taylor is more well-traveled than Route 66? I'm assuming she probably had sexual encounters with the very large number of people that she's made vindictive songs of. In fact, I'm thinking she might have BPD, actually. Although I'm not sure. Poppy Poppinson. Sticks is losing his libido. As Donald Trump would say, trust me, there's no problem. No problem at all. Look at the size of these hands. At this point, oh shit, I've gone almost an hour 30? Well, fuck. Fireburn, she's now crying over the evil Donald Trump. Yeah, I know. She has some Trump derangement syndrome. She's still talented as a singer, and she's good at branding, so at least she's got redeeming qualities. But you gotta realize, when somebody gets into the music industry or the film industry or art or anything like this, they are pressured to be left-wing. It's basically the rotten barrel argument. It's not that they go in as rotten apples, it's just that all the other apples are already spoiled, and so they rot much more fast. That's basically what has happened to a very large number of people with a very large amount of talent. Anyways, I'm going to go offline here because I need to eat a snack at some point. And then, what else was I going to do? Well, I got to docket things. And then, later on, it's time to edit some Morbid stories. I'm hoping to get that book out very, very quickly, because I have a feeling that a lot of you edgy people, if you're perverted or edgy in any way, you'll love Morbid stories. You'll find something that you like in there. Collection of short stories in multiple sections that are on topics that range from degradation and evil to sexual, dysfunction, pus and guts and killing, and all of these other wonderful things that are facets of reality. So yeah, I'm going to go offline. I'm going to go and docket some things. That's about all. Peace out.